What's good, YouTubers and YouTubettes? This is JBsports back again with another one. Rest in peace, Curtis Anderson, aka Kurt Sugar, a great boxing mind, a boxing historian. He will give you the backstory of a lot of great historic fights that took place in the golden era of boxing. And you want to talk about Joe Louis versus Max Schmeling. You want to talk about Sugar Ray Robinson versus Jake LaMotta. And I think they probably had like around 4 or 5 fights. Curtis Anderson could give you the history of those fights. You know, he could give you the backstory to those fights. Rest in paradise, Curtis Anderson. Now we're going to talk about the unified lightweight champion, George Kambosos, aka the Emperor. And what's next for the WBA, IBF, and WBO lightweight champion. I'm not going to talk about no WBC franchise. That's not a belt in my opinion. That's a trophy. That's what it was originally meant for. Now they're trying to pass that off as a world title, man, and that's absolutely crazy. Absolutely ridiculous. But we're not going to get into all that. We're going to talk about what's next for the Emperor. And I got some bad news for Devin the Dream Haney fans. He's not going to be next. He's off the table. And there's 2 reasons why that fight's not going to be next for George Kambosos. Number 1 is his promoter, Eddie Hearn. The P. Diddy of boxing promoters. Always in the video, has no contacts inside Australia. That's the one of the main reasons why this fight's not going to happen. Now, Eddie Hearn's been trying to get the fight done, and he's been trying to get that fight in Saudi Arabia, as he does have contacts in the Middle East. As we know, he put on Anthony Joshua in his rematch with Andy Ruiz. That fight took place in Saudi Arabia. And the undisputed heavyweight title fight that was being proposed between Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury, that fight was going to take place in Saudi Arabia. But as we know, that fight got shut down because our arbitrator ruled in former WBC heavyweight champion Deontay Wilder's favor and forced Tyson Fury to give him the rematch that was stated in the contract going into the second fight. With all that being said, he has no contacts inside Australia. George Kambosos has steadfastly stated numerous times that his next fight will be in Australia against a big name opponent. So I don't know why Eddie Hearn was still trying to get that fight and get that fight off in the Middle East. I guess he felt if he could get enough money on the table for George Kambosos, he couldn't say no. But that and the fact that Devin Haney is going to want too much for that fight. But what that fight is worth and what Devin Haney is accustomed to making, he's too expensive for that fight. Now, the other guy that's in the running, that's been prominently mentioned along with Devin Haney, Vasily Lomachenko, he, on the other hand, will be willing to take lesser purse. Will be willing to take lesser money than Devin Haney, because Lomachenko is at a point in his career where he's on the back 9 of his career. Not to say that he ain't still a great fighter, but he's 33 years old, so he's on the back 9 of his career, and he's chasing legacy, and he desperately wants to become unified lightweight champion once again, and be one step closer to becoming undisputed lightweight champion once again. So he'll be willing to take less. He'll be willing to take a lesser purse than Devin Haney. And his promoter, unlike Devin Haney's promoter, does have contacts inside Australia. Case in point, Manny Pacquiao took on Jeff Horn in Australia. That fight took place in one of those huge soccer stadiums over there in Australia. I believe they had in excess of 50,000 fans in attendance for that fight. They put that fight on over there Sunday morning or Sunday afternoon. I believe they put it on there in the daytime on a Sunday, which enabled it to be shown live on a Saturday night here in the U.S. So he has a track record of doing fights in Australia. Not only did Jeff Horn defeat Manny Pacquiao in Australia, I believe his first defense of the title that he won off of Manny Pacquiao, that fight was in Australia. And ESPN showed that fight. Top Rate Boxing promoted that fight. So they got a track record of staging fights over there in Australia. So that gives them the leg up as far as giving George Kambosos what he desires. And that's a big fight over there in Australia against a big name opponent. And Vasily Lomachenko fits that bill. So those two reasons are the main reason why the Devin Haney fight is off the table. Now George Kambosos is in a tug of war with his own promoter. It's promoted by the name of Lou DiBella. Lou DiBella is shopping George Kambosos to the highest bidder. He's trying to cut a deal. He's like a fisherman with bait on the fishing pole, on the reel, and throwing it out there in the water and seeing what fish is gonna grab that bait and he can reel that big fish in. And the big fish that he's trying to reel in right now is the Zone. And he wants to do a deal with the Zone, a two-fight deal, which ultimately would end up with a fight between George Kambosos and one of the biggest names on the Zone, Ryan Garcia. The part-time boxer, full-time Instagram model. But he does have a huge social media following, and that would be a big fight at the end of 2022. So what will happen is George Kambosos will take an interim fight, maybe against an Eastside Cruz or somebody on that level of an Eastside Cruz. Ryan Garcia will take an interim fight against a Tevin Farmer or somebody on the level of a Tevin Farmer. Kambosos wins his interim fight. Garcia wins his interim fight. That will set the stage for a mega fight in the lightweight division. The Zone will sign off on that. They believe they will be able to add a substantial amount of subscribers for that fight. So they will shell out big money, duffel bag money for that fight. And that's a fight that could be made and will be one of the biggest fights, probably, if not the biggest fight in the lightweight division, outside of maybe Devin Haney versus Gervonta Davis. That's probably the only fight you could say would be bigger than that fight, or maybe Davis versus that's a couple of fights. That fight. Let me hold off on all that. It's a big fight. It's a big fight as far as monetarily wise. It's one of the biggest fights in the lightweight division. But you're talking about of significance, it's not even in the top three. It's much more significant fights in the lightweight division than Kambosos versus Ryan Garcia, who outside of the Luke Campbell fight has done absolutely nothing in the lightweight division. Now George Kambosos, on the other hand, wants to go directly into a Vasily Lomachenko fight, as he's been stating again numerous times that he wants to fight in his home country of Australia, and he wants a big name opponent. He wants that to be his next fight. He do not want to take a quote-unquote tune-up fight. If Devin Haney is outpricing himself, and another thing, when people understand about what I mean about Devin Haney is too expensive, the money that he gonna want, and George Kambosos gonna feel that he should get more money than Devin Haney, that makes that fight not plausible. You know, you look at what that fight's worth and what Devin Haney is accustomed to making and what George Kambosos, who's in a new position right now as the unified lightweight champion, gonna want. He gonna want A-side money. He gonna feel that he should get more money than Devin Haney. He's bringing more belts to the table. He feel he has the biggest win in the lightweight division. Nothing that Devin Haney has done in the lightweight lightweight division has been bigger than his win over Teofimo Lopez, who was a recognizably known top lightweight at that time. So with all that being said, that makes that fight not plausible. Not plausible. That fight's kind of like when you talk about Spence and Crawford. According to the VP of the PBC, Tim Smith, what Terrence Crawford gonna want and what Errol Spence gonna want don't make that fight economically viable. And that's the same case we talk about on a lower scale when we talk about George Kambosos and Devin Haney. What that fight is worth and what both fighters gonna want make that fight economically not viable. Again, Lomachenko on the other hand, Lomachenko will take less money because he's chasing legacy. He's on the back nine of his career. Not to say that he's, you know, a shell of his former self. I'm not saying that. He's still at the top of his game, but I'm saying the guy's 33 years old. So, you know, he's a guy that's had over 360 amateur fights. So he's a guy that's been fighting for a long time. When you combine his amateur career with his professional career, he's been fighting for a long time now. So he's on the back nine of his career. He's still an elite lightweight, make no mistake about it, but he's chasing legacy. He wants to reclaim the status that he had going into the Teofimo Lopez fight, and that being becoming once again unified lightweight champion. And then they'll make him one step closer to becoming undisputed lightweight champion, which he once was when he defeated Luke Campbell in the UK 2.5 years ago. Let me know your thoughts about George Kambosos and what decision do you think he should make? Do you think he should go directly into a Vasily Lomachenko fight, or do you think he should basically take an interim fight and then fight Ryan Garcia at the end of 2022? Which direction do you think he should go? Let me know your thoughts. And like, share, and subscribe to JB Sports, the man, the myth, the legend. Before I holler, do you think he should go that direction, or do you think he should go directly into a Vasily Lomachenko fight that will take place in his home country of Australia? If I'm George Kambosos' team and I'm looking out for the best interest of George Kambosos, he fight Vasily Lomachenko, he gonna be like a one-hit wonder. You know what I'm saying? He gonna be like a one-hit wonder, man. He could be easily a one-hit wonder. He gonna be the Buster Douglas of the lightweight division. And you get in there after, you know, why don't you get you a good, not to say take a tune-up fight, but get you a good interim fight. If that's me, that's what I be telling George Kambosos, if I was his manager or his promoter. I say, look here, man. We're not finna put you in a ring with some no-hoper, some guy that we know that we feel the public don't think has a chance to beat you. We're gonna put you in there with a decent opponent, but we're gonna put you in there with in a winnable fight. You know, you fight Lomachenko, that's a 50-50 fight. And I be telling them that it actually ain't no 50-50 fight. It's probably a 70-30 fight in favor of Vasily Lomachenko. But you know, I'm gonna sugarcoat it. You know, if I'm part of his team, I'm gonna say, look here, man, this is a 50-50 fight, man. Fight Isaac Cruz. Fight him. You know, a lot of people thought he beat Gervonta Tank Davis. You can sell it as a bigger fight, big name opponent in Australia. Fight him, win that fight, and that will set up a big fight in America against one of the biggest names in the lightweight division, who has a huge social media following, Ryan Garcia. That's what I'll be telling him to do. But George Kambosos is a guy that has great self-belief, great confidence. And he said he seems to be a guy that sticks to his guns, and he don't want to be looked at as somebody like, oh man, you said you was gonna fight a big name opponent. You said you wanted to fight Haney or Lomachenko next. What you doing in the ring with Isaac Cruz? Oh, you ducking, you a fraud. He seems like he takes those type of things personal, especially after he said time and time again that he wants to fight the biggest names in the lightweight division. And here recently, he got on his social media platform and said that his next fight will be in Australia, and it would be against either Devin Haney or Vasily Lomachenko. If he's in the ring with anybody besides those two, it would be looked at as a duck, and he would be looked at as a duck artist. So we will see what happens, and we will see what transpires. Let me know your thoughts about what route that you think George Kambosos should travel down. The Vasily Lomachenko Highway, or go down an interim road, which will lead to the Ryan Garcia Avenue. Let me know. Like, share, and subscribe to JB Sports, the man, the myth, the legend. And I holla.